You're live.
I'm trying to find this on my phone. Hold on.
Okay, so this is our first ever live my testimony. I'm kind of nervous. I say that at the beginning of every single one. I say that I say that at everyone at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be
Um
so.
it's not showing up on my phone.
um, look your name up on YouTube, and you'll be able to find
Okay,
it.
let's do that.
So for the podcast listeners, we are live for the
Here
first
we go.
time
I
ever.
got it.
Um, I've been saving up a minute, a fat long minute, for a lot of this stuff to start live streaming these because they took so
There we go.
long. If the audio doesn't sound right,
All right. Sounds great.
does it?
Yeah, we're
Did-
good.
Wait, do I need to change any?
No, you don't need to change anything. We sound fine.
Great. So
We're good, dude.
it's on
Can
you.
you hear me good?
Yeah, I can hear you good. Can
All
you
right.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. can hear you
Let's
good.
spark these up and have a conversation.
Okay.
Um,
You got the lighter in your pocket.
Wait, can you say that again? I gotta get like every time you talk.
You got the lighter in your pocket.
Okay, and then it's back to me. So, yeah, for those again podcast listeners not knowing what's going on, get on YouTube. YouTube is the new is new. What is the bomb platform? Oh, can you say that live? The bomb. I feel like when you're live, it's kind of
Nobody's listening to us. No agencies listening to us, man.
Do you have yours?
Yeah, I do.
Here you go. Oh, my door is open. I'm gonna.
That's
shut my-
okay. Just leave it. Just leave it. It don't matter, right? Who cares?
Okay.
We're fine.
So, who is your God?
I knew you were going to ask me this question.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the.
Um, the best way I can answer that is I'm pretty heavily agnostic. So,
For those who don't know, what does that mean?
agnostic is the belief that you're uncertain that there is a higher power, but you're uncertain whether or not. I guess the best way to put it is something's in control. I just don't know what it is. It's not. I grew up in a Christian family, went to a Baptist church, and parents always tried to instill very strong Christian beliefs to us. But I think as I've grown up more, I've started to accept the idea that maybe it's not the Christian God that I grew up learning about, but it's something. It's got to be something. I think that it's only logical that something created all this. So I would say that's my perspective.
So basically, you have no clue.
Yeah, basically. I have no clue, but like it's better than in my head. It's I'd prefer not to be atheist. I'd prefer not to believe that like I'm here by a big bang. You know, that theory of evolution and all those things are like science and theory and all that is great to form some sort of hypothesis for why we're here, and why you're like you've got skin, I've got skin, and we have eyeball. You know, we have five senses and all that. But I think that it's more logical to think that something put us here for a purpose.
So, like, so you kind of know what my what I kind of view is like. So,
No, we haven't talked in a while, so I don't.
You don't know?
No.
I'm so. I'm like, right now. I'm like trying to switch and talk like
Yeah.
deeply at the same exact time. I I kind of want to put it on the wide angle and just like
Do that. Put it on the
Yeah.
wide angle. Don't even worry about it.
yeah.
Do that.
Okay. But no. So so I've been waking up like I actually just like looked on it on my phone. It's been like 40 straight weeks. And I actually thought about like ending the streak because I don't want to think of it. I don't want it to be one of like those things where like I'm doing it just to have another day that I get it done. But like each morning I'll wake up and I will like read like a devotional and um and then every night I go to sleep, I'll read like a piece of the Bible. So I just went through in the past 300. I just finished the Bible once.
Bring it closer.
Yeah,
Bring it closer to you. There you go.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that.
Yeah, now I can hear a little bit better.
Uh-huh.
But so what I did was so every single morning I'll wake up and I'll like that's the first thing that I do. And some days I'll like I'll really mess up where I'm just like lately I've just been an absolute asshole for no apparent reason.
Like you just mean to other people?
Yeah.
Or like just like angry at the world?
Just really ticked off.
Yeah.
So like it's been like one of those things where like I get home and I'm like trying to journal a lot more. So like but that's not normal for me. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
for all growing up we kind of grew up in the same similar environment, but I never actually read the Bible until probably like 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've never actually been so engrossed would maybe be the right word to like actually every morning and every night since about a year ago. And like what sparked that was like the relationship ending. It was like a flood, right? Feeling that this feeling of like I didn't think I had anything.
Like a gap.
Oh,
There's like a gap of like
well, I filled that for the longest
there's a
time.
void.
Yeah, I filled that for the longest time with somebody else, and then that other person just.
I know exactly what that's like. Yeah. I think that's probably out of all the ways that you could fill a void, that's one of the more positive ones, right? It's got to be.
With somebody else?
No, like my last relationship ended after 5 years. There's a lot there's so much, especially during the most developmental stages of my life. Like was with that person from 16 to 20. Not having, or it was 15 to 20, not having that person anymore. Like
while your brain was also like,
yeah, while during that developmental stage, like when that ends, you really feel a big gap. You're like, okay, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And so like people fill voids with lots of things, but I think religion logically has to be one of the more positive ways to fill it.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And so I was talking to Isaac about this kind of like this whole idea of like faith, like what do you put faith in is like a big question. Because like when you think of like you're still you have a girlfriend now, right?
Yeah.
Like what do you want out of your girlfriend? You want her to be faithful, right?
Yeah.
To who?
Me, her family and her friends first, and then me, I think, because I think somebody who puts like family and friends first is a good foundation for like loving somebody and then putting somebody else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I think there's two sides to that. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people would answer that by saying, I want them to put, I want them to put me first, obviously. But like,
sure.
If you don't put your family and your friends first, maybe that's like not a good foundation for being with somebody and loving somebody and being faithful to them,
The thing is that like but like we call it a void, right? That empty space that like we fill that with things that we hold to a great value, right? Like that void is reserved for the things we hold to the highest value, right? So we see things and what I think people see things in is that you see it either as tools or obstacles.
Yeah.
Okay. So follow me on this little rabbit hole.
Okay.
Is that
you said tools or obstacles?
Tools or obstacles.
Okay.
So like if you see a hammer, like that's a tool.
Yeah.
Now if you're trying to get in somewhere to a building and there's a man with blood stains on him and a hammer in his right hand, he's an obstacle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like tools and obstacles, or like let's take it back to high school, is like that teacher that you just didn't like, and like you just wanted to get done with the class.
It's an obstacle.
Obstacle.
Yeah.
Or you go to college and you're studying something, and that teacher is to some degree a tool. Now that's like reductionistic, is I think the term used.
What do you mean?
Reducing
Like
something to just very like layman's
it's
terms.
a minimal perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, um, but whether it's an obstacle or whether it is a tool, is that you see some kind of value in that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know where I'm going with this.
We were talking. We were talking about what we put faith in.
Yes. So
So do you put your faith in like, some people might. I think some people might answer that question with, I put my faith in religion. That might be like the first thing they say. I know the first thing that I would say is I put my faith in that. My perspective has really changed over the last 6 months on that question. I think. I think because and it's like a battle. Like I want to put faith in people, but like I don't put faith in like all the people in my life. I put faith in. I think the first way I go about it is I evaluate the people in my life, and then I see like who do I see big potential in that I should like put my faith in, that I can rely on.
Yeah.
And usually that's like my 2 or 3 closest friends, and my girlfriend.
But
and right now I only have like, I think I only have like probably like 3 or 4 people I say that I really put faith in my life. And I think that's good because me being OCD in that aspect, really, I'm really minimalistic with the amount of things that I have in my life. So 4 or 5 people is good for me. I don't want to overwhelm myself.
But like I'm just gonna have to like stick back to the wide angle.
Yeah.
It's so hard to
do that.
What I was thinking is that, and I spoke to Isaac a lot about this, is that it's deeper than that. I think that we're getting to a point in our conversation that like it's, especially this conversation right here, is that like we have to use words that are more precise. And like when you say people, it's not necessarily people, but it's like their attributes.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like their personality.
Yeah.
It's like what they have, their potential. You used in a way potential. So it's like meta truths about people. These truths about people, these things that they have, that they acquired over time from traditions in their family, and from the culture and whatnot. What is it that these people, did they take the good things from culture, or did they take the bad things from culture, right? So like,
yeah, and like what things about those people can't, because certain things, I think this is another thing I'm battling with, is some things about people can change. Like I think about my closest friend, like Eli. And I texted you this morning. I told you I just started the audiobook How to Win Friends and Influence People. Chapter 2 of that book is you can't make somebody do something unless they want to. That's the only way. That's what Dan Carnegie says. Like that's the only way somebody's going to do something that you want them to do, is if they want to do it. So I think about my best friend Eli, and I think more often than not, I'm trying to make him do things that he doesn't want to do. And that's a lot. I think most of that isn't because I want to see him be this perfect person. It's because I want to push him.
yeah.
And I've been doing this for like probably like the last 3 or 4 years of our friendship, is I'm really trying to push him in a direction that I think is positive for him, and that maybe he doesn't see at the moment. And I'm not the all-knowing person. I don't know what's perfect for everybody, but I know him well enough to know what I think is good for him.
Well, you're trying to push him to his potential.
Yes,
you're trying
exactly.
To be a good friend, and like, what is a good friend but somebody who pushes that person to their peak, to what they can accomplish, right?
Yeah, and along with that is finding things that, like, what won't change about that person, what will. What It's not what can I manipulate, it's, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
certain
So
things don't change, and the things that you can change are yeah. I guess that's where I'm going with that is.
Whenever, so I've caught myself saying this a couple times, is that, not saying this, but like backtracking, is that what I'll do is I'll say, like, you should do this, and like I'll hear myself saying that, and then I'll be like, no, like even in like text message, I'll say like, you should do this, and then I'll even go as far as like putting a little star and being like, you should consider,
Yeah.
like what is the difference between just looking at somebody and be like, you should work out, like that's one thing, a whole nother, I think something that's more meaningful and more
Easier for people to receive.
yeah, is if you say maybe
Have you
consider.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even better, that you could say maybe consider reading this book, or maybe consider this. Have you thought about this? And like wording it actually as a question rather than a command. And I think that you actually see that a lot in the Bible, is that in the Old Testament, a lot of it is, it has this kind of feel of commands, like the Ten Commandments. It's
Yeah.
like more commanding, but then in the New Testament, then it's more of like
It's more accepting, I feel like.
it's asking.
Yeah.
Like it's
That's why a lot of people don't like the Old Testament. It's so demanding.
Mm.
That's what I think, you know.
Have you read the Old Testament, all of it? It's okay.
I
if you
have
say
not. No,
'cause
I have
Isaac
not.
Ames hasn't.
I have not.
He told me that the other day.
Isaac hasn't? No.
I don't know if he's cool with me sharing that, but whatever.
But I think that yeah, I get what you're saying, and what parallels with what you just said is chapter 1 of how to win friends and influence people is he talks about this basically this guy that worked at construction sites and worked safety, and construction guys in back when this book was written didn't wear their hard hats a lot. And so this guy kept, coming to the guys and saying, you guys aren't wearing your hard hats. Here's why you need to read them. And he would cite like, this is why.
I was just testing the levels.
Okay. And he would say, this is why you need to wear them. And then they put them on, and then he would leave, and they'd take them off again. So he said, well, I'll just approach this differently. Next time he came around, he said, do you guys not wear your hard hats because they're uncomfortable? Approaching it, asking them why they, there's got to be some reason.
Yeah. I think that it was, I can't give you the exact verse and whatnot, but I can. In Luke 11, basically the disciples, these dudes that followed around Jesus like crazy, who didn't even actually, this is crazy to think, is that they didn't actually believe in him whenever they were following Jesus. Did you know that? Like Peter, he didn't really necessarily believe until after he died and resurrected. Peter is like the guy that started the church.
Because Peter was, I know exactly what you're talking about, because the resurrection really like kind of scared the shit out of Peter. Yeah.
Well, not only that, but also with Thomas, because Thomas actually took his fingers and put him through actually, I don't think he ever did that. I think Thomas was the guy who said, I know it was Thomas. Thomas basically was like, yo, Jesus, I'm not going to believe in Jesus. It was after the disciples then believed. And they came back, and they told Thomas about how they saw Jesus. And then they were like, yeah.
Thomas, you mean they saw him resurrect? Is that what you're saying?
Like, yeah. This was after he pretty much the whole when who's Lord of the Rings, the wizard, when he came back
when Gandalf comes back from Actually, it's interesting you say that, because me and my mom just watched Fellowship of the Ring and Two Towers in the last 3 days. But yeah, he starts as Gandalf the Gray and then comes back as Gandalf the White.
Yeah.
And like the guy's almost They
Yeah.
can't believe it until they see him.
And so here's the thing is that Thomas was like, yo, I'm even after the I don't know if it was all the disciples, they came back and they're like, yo, he's real. Thomas is like, I'm not gonna believe in him until like I can put my fingers in the holes of his hands.
Yeah.
And
he did.
and yeah, and then so Jesus was like, yo, Thomas, and just like showed up, and then he's like, go ahead, like I'm real.
Yeah.
And that was the first. So anyway, what I was saying though is that they were asking him how to pray in Luke 11, and
Asking Jesus?
yeah,
Yeah.
because they didn't have
The
a clue.
disciples were.
What they did, they had to have had some clue because it was Jewish tradition to pray to God, but they were asking Jesus at that time. So they asked him, and then he how would be the name, the kingdom come, or thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. And he says that, right? You know that prayer?
Yeah.
Forgive.
That's the prayer he does at the table, right? That's
after the Sermon on the Mount.
Okay.
But anyway, so he says that ask and you shall
receive.
Everyone who asks will receive. And it also says everyone. It doesn't say like again,
But is that in the different? I know you're talking to Isaac or CJ. You're talking to Charlie about the different versions of the Bible that you read. You have like the King James version and the Eastern Standard version that you switch between, right? And then you've got like a couple others.
Yeah.
Does it say everyone in all of the text? That's how it's interpreted.
Yeah.
Okay.
So every single one, it's everyone. And again, I bring up to say, check. Yeah, I do need to go a bit closer. But in every single version of the text is that it says everyone. And he's also talking to the disciples at this point who did still not believe in Jesus. So what I'm alluding to is that everyone who asks will receive. I mean, we've all heard you reap what you sow. I mean, some people call it karma, what have you. But what I'm saying though is that if you wake up every single morning, even if you're not asking God, if you just ask out loud, could I get a raise? Could I wake up earlier? Could you please help me to eat breakfast in the morning? Check.
Right there. There you
right
go.
there?
Yeah, right
Okay.
there.
That's the money. If could yeah, even if you don't believe in God, like I believe personally in that one verse alone, is that you will receive what you ask for. Like if it's not
And
God,
sometimes it's not for a long time, right? I think that's the problem. Now that you're bringing this up, I think we should pivot on that. A lot of people, their definition of a lot of people that struggle with religion struggle with that. Well, I asked for it and I haven't seen it come around yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It also goes around with like why does God punish good people? Stuff like that. It's like, well, what's your interpretation of why you haven't received what you asked for yet, or why you've been punished when you're doing so many good things? That's
well,
like
he says pretty clearly, it's because you're not asking correctly.
Yeah, and then again, are you even really being? Is it a punishment? I don't think punishment's the good word.
Well, so that's that actually rings bells whenever you're not asking correctly. It's like why won't this person get off his butt and do something with the skills and attributes that he has? I see so much more in this person.
So that's what Jesus says in the Bible is because you're not asking correctly?
Yes. Is that you're not is that you're not asking correctly.
Yeah.
So like, or just asking period. That's what I'm bringing to the table is that I think it's not just asking correctly, but you're just not even asking. You know what I mean? Like you're just telling. You're just looking at this person and saying, you should start working out more, or you should find better people to surround yourself with.
Or you should give me a raise,
Yeah.
Rather than saying, what's the flip side of that? I need a raise because of this, or could I get a raise because of the, like, are you talking about the way that you format your prayer, the way that you format
Well,
what
here's the
you're
thing is
asking
that
for?
I don't think it's just in prayer, but I believe that if you ask, you'll receive
Just the
in
way that you,
conversation.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so like in this conversation that we're having right now, like, could I see you more often? Like, I enjoy these kind of conversations with you, Nick. Could you come around more often? Instead of saying like you should definitely, and I think that it also has to do with just like where our culture is, like our language just in general is like, more often than not I've heard from people like, you should definitely come kick it sometime. You should kick it more often with me. Like, you should.
Yeah, but you, like, the way that I think about that when somebody says that is like 99% of the time it's not going to happen. They just say that because that's just part of the conversation. That's the problem. It's like you texted me this morning because you were upset that I was an hour late. Was step one, be reliable. Step two, value their time.
Mm.
I think people say you should come kick it sometime 99% of the time because they're not a reliable person. Like, they're not if they're not a reliable person.
Yeah.
Which, like, it seems, I don't know if you feel this way, but this is my struggle. And I think a lot of this just comes with my like strict personality for the people that or strict like traits and expectations for the people that I want in my life, like want close to me, is if you're not reliable, I know that it's not even, you're not gonna come around and kick it.
It's just useful to even, but I think that if you word it how as a question rather than or even a suggestion, I think that a better way to I don't want to say get what you want, but a better way to communicate how you feel is to ask a question rather than to make the statement. I think that it's a whole lot meaningful because then it gives that person an opportunity to like ponder, because if you just say somebody,
yeah, if you say you should come hang out with me, there's no response there, really. Well, the response is different. Rather than, hey, would you want to get together next week? Then they have to think like, oh, how do I tell this person no?
yeah,
Or how do I tell them like, what are my plans?
yeah,
Then well, Saturday's open. So like, okay, well, let's do Saturday. And then Saturday rolls around. That don't happen.
Well, then it comes back to, are they being reductionistic and seeing you as more of an obstacle than a tool?
Exactly. Yeah. But if they care about, like, they value enough, you're a tool, right? That's what we're getting at. Somebody values you enough, you're a tool, not an obstacle.
But what that's being reductionistic. I think that, of course, it's the devil is in the details. But whenever I see like, and what we're doing is we're identifying like opportunities. Like an opportunity could be, like you don't really learn things. You learn more from obstacles than tools, really. You know what I mean? Like the hardest.
Yeah,
things
I
in life.
agree. Absolutely. Yeah. But at the same time, I think now that I think about that, I might say that it's kind of an equal thing. Like, I'd say they work in different ways. Obstacles, I think, definitely teach you more lessons. That's my opinion. But I think tools show you, obstacles have taught me more lessons in my life, but tools have taught me what to value. Whether a tool is a person or an object or a concept. A tool, I think the tools in my life have definitely taught me what to value more.
So I say the tools and obstacles, and we're kind of like going on this. We're going on a ride. This is a journey, right? I don't know where this is going because it's in my mind, and I've been thinking about a lot of these things by myself. But is that it's check.
Bring
right
it
there.
there.
Just like put it right to my nose.
No, just closer.
On my nose.
Right, but a little further down.
Okay. Okay.
Where it should be comfortable,
This
right?
this is why you're Jamie 2.0.
Yeah, just bring
Come on.
it. Well, because I know on my phone,
Yeah.
I know when I was listening to this on my phone, when you're here,
Yeah.
when I'm right here,
Yeah.
where like my mouth is almost touching the mic, that's where you want to be from a listening perspective.
I wonder
It's
if I
better
could.
for listening.
Well, what if I just turned it up like that? Check mic.
Yeah, but then it's a little more hollow because the mic isn't so focused.
Yeah.
But you were
Check.
saying we were kind of going on this journey now with the
So-
conversation. What
yeah.
were you saying?
So what I was getting to is that, like, who do you place? Where do you place your faith? And like you were saying, like, I would hope that she places faith in her family, and then is that I would come to argue that and I'd ask you to consider that you can't place your faith in one, you can't place your faith in one specific attribute of individuals. So like if somebody is extremely reliable, you can't like place that above all else.
Yeah,
Because
like-
the moment that they
Yeah, because I know what you're saying, because it depends on. I think that depends on the type of person you are. Because then the one moment they're not reliable, do you then start like reevaluating that aspect of them? And I think that would be wrong to do. Because
but not just them, but like all of them.
yeah,
And so like we're so specific in looking at people, is like when I like look at you, is that I don't necessarily see Nick, right? That's like such a hollow, it's so hollow to say that I see Nick. Like I see a lot of memories that we've had together of like the times that I would come over and like um meet somebody who was more obnoxious than I was whenever my sister's friends would come over. No, I'm kidding.
no, but that's
But a little
true.
bit- but a little bit-
Because you were hanging out with Zach, and I was his brother, right? And
Yeah.
I was always Zach's obnoxious brother.
Well, but the thing is that I see you more than that. Like that was like the start of things, and then like we started to craft some kind of relationship out of this, and like I could call you if I needed you,
Yeah,
or you could call me whenever you needed me, right? And
Yeah.
it was because we, of one bit of it was reliability, but I guess what I'm alluding to is that I don't believe that you can place your faith and not just attributes of other people, but or people in general. But you have to place faith in the creator. Like
you're
got-
saying whatever your concept of a god is, whatever your
it has to be something higher than anything else. It can't. So if you dilute it all the way down to um that one attribute of reliability, right? That's like dialing it, being very precise, and then you can macro it. So I was like micro. You're looking through a microscope, and then you can also do the macro of just Nick, right? Or even just Musselman. What does that mean to me? Your whole family, Musselman, and then I don't know your grandparents or anything like that.
Are you saying that people are like the micro, creators like the macro? It's better to place your faith in the macro than the micro.
Yeah. I think that because when you do that, and so we're back on this journey here. So I looked at you as Nick, and then now we're going even more macro of Musselman, your whole entire family, and then we just look deep into your blood, and then we look at your whole entire generations of Musselmans, right, from back whenever they lived in Germany, right?
Yeah.
And so then now you're looking at the heritage of that individual, and we're probably related in some way because I'm German, I think.
Doubtful, but maybe.
Yeah, doubtful, but maybe. But what I'm saying though is that you continue down this macro path, is that you're going to get to the point of who is responsible for all of that. Like, who is it that is responsible for Nick Musselman's reliability? You know what I mean? And then so once you get to that point, then you can say, well, it could be nature or it could be nurture.
Yeah, but what do you think? I mean, because I know that what I'm getting at is, because I know I see your perspective. I definitely think my perspective on this could change, but what I think is i- is that it's not. You said it's. I don't believe you should place your faith in people. You should place your faith in the Creator. I think I disagree with that just from an agnostic perspective, just because the Creator isn't such a concreted thing in my life. So it's easier and healthier for me to put my faith in the people that I surround myself with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with that, I think that like what I also think about what you said is that when I evaluate somebody, whether it's you or anybody else, I don't look at the macro. I don't look at their generations. I look at their family, their current family. I think, there's like a heritage perspective to that of like,
Well, you look at their values, right?
yeah, and their values are obviously like a pivot of their family and the way that they grew up, and their heritage has an effect on their psychological environment of why they make the decisions they do and why they live the way they do. It also has definitely an effect on like the way that they live their life, like the way that they make those decisions, because like maybe I get where I'm going with this is like maybe your family was like hardworking, like railroad workers in the past. Like maybe that's your heritage, like the Johnson family heritage,
Yeah.
That, and that growing up, and like that's what your family's instilled in you. It's probably more likely that you have like this hardworking personality and like stricter values of like,
My grandfather worked until he was 87,
yeah,
like fixing appliances.
yeah, and that.
Yeah.
So it definitely has a like some sort, like what some like it has an effect, from like a bird's eye view of
Yeah.
you. That's one small chunk of the million pieces that make up you, right? And
Sure.
A good question is like, what do you think if there's a million pieces that make up somebody? What are the majority? Like, what are the majorities of that?
Yeah, like what
What do you believe
of that, because I've been not studying, I've been listening to a lot of Jay Peterson, and he looks a lot into
Who is Jay Peterson?
Jordan Peterson.
Oh yeah. Jordan
And
Peterson.
and so he identifies a lot of like hierarchies,
Yeah,
macro and micro,
and
and
mostly a lot of social hierarchies.
yeah, with lobsters, and I'm sure you've seen that where he's
Yeah, I have.
okay.
I watched a lot of Jordan Peterson too.
So I think that when you look at somebody, is that you create a hierarchy of values in another person. So like whenever I see Nick, like the highest of your hierarchy is that like our experiences, like we've had so many dang experiences to the point like I almost to like some degree I feel like you're kind of like a brother, like a little brother to me. So yeah, I'm about to tear up. Just kidding. But the question that I come back to often, too often, is who is responsible for that? And I can give your parents credit because like they made you, right? But like, who made them? And it always travels me back to the beginning. Just like whenever I said, I'm gonna catch this thing. Whenever I said, the things that I remember, it went back to the beginning of like when was the first time that I remember Nick was whenever we were playing video games and you'd come down and like, I want to play. Can I play? Can I play? Like let me play with you guys.
Yeah.
And we only had like a 2-player game because it was 2005.
It was probably Nintendo 64.
Yeah. But I just about swallowed that smoke. That would have been bad. I would have been coughing. But I guess what I'm saying is that I hold, and I see also hierarchy in myself too. Is like, what do I value? it can't be Nick's reliability. It can't be the experiences that me and Nick have, but it has to be, um, like, let me put it this way, like, I don't want to be reductionistic. I don't want to just look at this as water. I mean, sometimes yes, to get through life, like you need to be reductionistic. A lot of times, like simplifying things is just nice.
It's the best way.
Yeah, to just be like, this is water, like it'll be hydrating.
Yeah.
But
how does that apply to people though?
But I think it loses value whenever you just look at it as just water. It's like there's a lot of people in this world that don't even have water, clean water like this, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you just kind of like throw those to the side, then you devalue that water.
Yeah, and that applies to the person because you're saying you don't want to just look at like reliability, or you don't want to look at like how nice they are or what they do for other people, etc. Are you saying that the flip side of that is like looking at remembering like all the people in your life that aren't like that, and that's what makes you value that about that person, is because so many other people in your life don't have those traits? Or
I'm saying is that like I guess we're discussing like how do you value other people, and it's
well, how do you value other people? Because I know how I value other people.
How do you value other people? Let me swing it back at you.
Yeah, I think I evaluate. I think that like the best example is my I have two closest friends, Chandler and Eli, but I think that Eli is the person that I use for like most of my evaluations of how like I've treated people, how I treat people, and how I look at them. And I think that like how I value somebody is like one of my close friends is look at like what do they do in their everyday life? Do they sit on their butt every day and do nothing? Like if I call them or text them, like if I send them a video, do they watch it? If I call them, do they have the time for me? If I text them, do they text me back? Like, can they communicate? Can they be there when I need them?
So you value people based on how they value you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if somebody doesn't take an interest in me, then, and like I feel like this is a good way of looking at it, but it might be like seen as selfish. But like if I want to like have a relationship with somebody, whether it's like an acquaintance or a friend, shouldn't the only reason that I want to have a relationship with them is because they take an interest in me too? Like you don't want to force something, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not just here today because like I didn't just show up today because like to do a podcast, right? I was here because you asked me to come.
Yeah.
You know, it was because I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like it's not like I don't know you and that I don't want anything to do with you, right? So it's like it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
If you want something out of me, like if you want a relationship with me, I should want a relationship with you too for that to work.
Sure.
Right? I mean, that's how friendship works.
Yeah.
So that's I've never thought of it that way, but that's the best way to put it, is the way that I value people is how they value me.
I was this just popped in my head. It was an opinion. I don't know but I like having you around because you're honest. Because like you're like, you should get warmer lights, and I was like, we're just trying to get this stupid thing to work. Yeah. It took us like what, an hour and a half.
And then when we're done, I'm like, hey, you should get warmer lights. Or we're like just worrying about getting through the damn podcast.
Just getting it to where it could record, and it's just like, hey, you should get warmer lights. Like these lights aren't good enough for you. But it was like, but that's true. Like I should, and you're right. And I like value not only you as a person, but also like your opinion.
Yeah, but sometimes I'm almost too honest, and I'm really working on that. And I've been,
no, yeah, I don't think you can ever be too honest.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Here's the deal with that. So I took this class, this pen testing class. I told you before we started this, and one night after class, after I applied for, I applied for this position because he brought it up in class, and then a week later, after class,
Give the listeners a little bit of context. You
yeah, I was in this pen testing class. It's a hacking class where they teach you, basically, an instructor teaches you how to hack like networks, like web applications, and like servers, and I mean everything under the sun, websites.
Yeah.
And my instructor one night in class was like, "Hey, I have this cybersecurity position open at KU. If any of you guys are interested." And I went up to him like during our
immediately
during the break of class, because it's a class from 6 to 9:30, so it's a 3.5 hour class.
I would have just raised my hand and been like, pick me.
Yes, yeah, right. So there's an intermission in the class, and so I went up to him during the intermission. I was like, "Hey, how do I apply?" He's like, "Okay, I'll post it. I'll post the link for you on the class page, and you can apply." So I applied while I was sitting there in class while he was lecturing, and he emails me back like he's across the room from me at his computer, and he emails me back, and he's like, "If you qualify, I'll definitely bring you in for an interview." So I didn't say anything to him that night, and then a week later, we had class, and after class, me and him were the last ones out of the class, because I was like, he was looking for. It was obvious he was like, I don't know. I thought that there was kind of going to be an opportunity for us to talk together, so I figured if I walked out of class with him, that'd be the best way to do it. So we're standing like outside of the building, and as we're walking inside, he was like, or as we're walking to our cars, he's like, you remind me a lot of myself at your age. And I said, "Oh yeah, why is that?" He said, "You're very cocky, but you have something to back it up." And I said, "Yeah, having 3 siblings and being the youngest of 3 siblings will do that to you."
I can relate.
Yeah, or it'll do the opposite, right? But that's what I said. It'll do that to you, and then we've been we've been emailing back and forth for like the last 3 weeks, and I've interviewed for the position since then. But he's mentoring me on like personality aspects. He's mentoring me on many things. What we call.
Did he suggest that book to you?
Yeah, so he suggested like 4 books to me 2 days ago, and that's the first one I'm starting with.
And how did he suggest it to you? Did he ask you, or did he tell you?
He basically said, after I interviewed that day, he called me and he said, "Hey, I'd like to mentor you on some things, on some personality traits, etc. If you're interested." I said, "Yeah, absolutely, I'm interested. Anything that I can do to help my course in the corporate world, because that's inevitably where I'm going to be as an engineer, is in the corporate world. Any job I have,
sure."
And the corporate world is like, and I learned this when I worked at Sprint, it's like a whole nother animal. And it's like, it's kind of pathetic in a lot of ways, the way that it's
a lot of politics, a lot of drama, a lot of just, it's a hierarchy.
Yeah, and
who's the most competent.
Exactly. And it's extremely stressful. It can be. I don't want to blanket that and say that it is, but it definitely can be. And everybody knows that. But after the interview, he said that he called while we were on the phone. He said, "I'd like to mentor you." He mentioned we picked you over other candidates because you had specifically because you had some leadership skills that other candidates didn't have. And I think to go along with that was like the reason he's mentoring me is because there's obviously some skills that I need to work on. And being 21 years old and being in a corporate environment where 98% of the people that I work with are going to be older than me, which is constantly my experience in the engineering world. Most people are like, most people are late 20s or in their 30s already. They're not like 20 to 24.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 25 and on. And I'd say it's 50-50 whether or not somebody's accepting of the younger guy who's like smart and like ready to do their job and is like confident in their skills and like they want to accept that person.
Sure.
And so like there's like some serious like soft skills that somebody has to develop at my age, and you want to do it early on to prepare
he saw
you
you
for
probably
that.
as someone who's more moldable.
Yeah,
a little
exactly.
bit more clay-like to where he can be a more influential.
And so he had me take a personality test. I just took it like 2 nights ago.
I hate those.
Yeah, but this was the easiest one I've ever taken, and I thought it was like really accurate, and the questions that it asked were good. But I came up as I think it said like adversity, I believe it was. I can check. But basically my personality type is less than 1% of the human population. That's what it said. And I sent him it.
Don't
and,
let it go to your head.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting. And I sent it to him, and he said, I've never met an INFJ before, because that's like the way that you look up the personality are like these 4 letters.
Yeah.
And then there's like a dash because each personality has 2 different there's 2 different personalities to each one. I'll send it to you. It's like 16personalities.com.
Okay.
So I came up as INFJ, and INFJ is I can't remember the word for it, but it's less than 1%, and it was basically like here.
Wait, have you done an IQ test?
I have not done an IQ test, but I want to pull this up. Hold on.
I took an IQ test one time, and it was well, I'm not gonna say it out loud. I mean, it wasn't bad. Yeah, I mean, I came up like average, I think. So I guess that was cool. I also was like really, I don't know. It says I don't know on there, on the IQ test. Is that there's for every single possible multiple choice, it says I don't know, or the answer's not there. And so I got really bad anxiety of like, I don't want to say I don't know. You know what I mean?
You don't want to be too uncertain.
Yeah. So even though I'm sure some of the answers were like I don't know, I was just like very anxiety driven of being like I don't want to not put nothing, and I also don't want to say the answer's not there because I don't know. So it was like a back and forth. I probably should have put I don't know. I would have been a couple points higher if I would have.
Okay, so here we go. I have it pulled up here. The word to describe my personality here. So his personality was commander, somebody who meets goals.
Yeah.
And mine's advocate. So it says the advocate personality type is very rare, making up less than 1% of the population, but they nonetheless leave their mark on the world. Advocates have an inborn sense of idealism and morality, but what sets them apart is that they are not idle dreamers.
I wish you would have sent this to me so I could have taken it before the podcast.
Yeah, that's fair. It says these individuals are capable of taking concrete steps to realize their goals and make a lasting positive impact. And I read that, and I was like, holy crap. And here's why. What's very interesting about that is the inborn sense of idealism and morality. I'm super big on morals. That's what's like kind of hurt me at my last 2 jobs, is like observing behavior that I have a moral problem with in a work environment really bothers me, because it then makes me frustrated that I don't like, you don't have the time in a work environment to like stop somebody and be like, hey, we need to talk about this. And then you change that. And you like this goes back to, you can change some people and you can't, like, you have to look at like what you can change and what you can't.
Yeah.
I don't have time, nor is it appropriate for me to confront you and say, this needs to change. Otherwise I don't want to work here. You have to figure out how to just deal with it. And that's what separates someone from being happy at their job and not happy at their job, is like, inevitably you have to deal with those things in the corporate world and those type of people that you can't change, and they're going to be there.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that job should not be that way. You should not look around and say, 75% of this is stuff that I want to change.
Yeah.
It should be like, I'm okay with all of this, and the stuff that I'm not okay with, I can deal with, and I'm happy here. So that part really resonated with me. And then
those lights need to be a whole lot warmer.
Yeah. And then
but with people, like their attitudes and their outlooks on coming into work, and like, are you talking like when you say morals? Are you talking about like their attitude?
here's a good here. Let me give you a good example.
Yeah, give me one.
I was working at this car dealership.
You worked at a car.
Yeah, I was a network engineer for a car dealership. It was Gary Crosley Ford.
I don't think we should have said that.
I don't care. I don't care. No, I could talk about this. There's no there will be no repercussions.
Okay.
But the person that I was working for was spying on the people that I worked with.
Yeah.
Through their computers. And I found this out. I also found out that they were sleeping with other people that worked there. I think they were overtime. They had slept with 4 of the employees that worked there. And you can't fire somebody for sleeping with employees unless it's on company time, technically. So that's kind of the problem there. But in most corporate environments, if you've been sleeping around, you're expendable.
Yeah.
They'll get rid of you. In a good corporate company with like a strong structure and principles, you're gone. That's a big no-no. You don't do that unless you intend on having a relationship with them.
Especially whenever it's your morals, like you don't agree with that, morally speaking.
Yeah,
even
not that
culture in our culture is that it's morally acceptable to sleep with whoever you want. But you disagree with that.
Well, it's not the I disagree with sleeping with people that I work with,
sure,
having that relationship. It's the can that person that's doing that control it, or can me and the other person control how that impacts our work?
Sure.
And the problem here was that it definitely impacted my work.
Yeah.
Was what was going on there. And so that's a good example. Is I had a problem with that, and I had a problem with that person spying on other people. That's not okay. Now the flip side to that is, in a corporate environment, if I have a computer at your work, technically, I signed a technology agreement when I work there. That's what everybody does when they work somewhere. And all the paperwork you sign is a technology agreement. That computer is susceptible to the company. The company owns that.
Yeah.
They don't own you, but they own the technology you use. So they have a right to that fly. They have a right to technically snoop on you. Technically, she was within her legal rights, but morally, that's a problem.
Oh, it was a she.
And just because it's legally okay does not make that okay to do
morally.
Yeah. So that's a good example there. Now I want to pivot on that and talk about. It says these individuals are capable of taking concrete steps to realize their goals and make a lasting positive impact.
Yeah.
I think one thing I'm really good at, and I was talking to when I was emailing my professor, I mentioned this, is like, I've had a lot of goals, and when I make a goal, I put a note in my phone. I have a note screen on my phone, and every day I make notes. And I scroll through them every day. So every day I have a to-do list, every single day. And that to-do list, I probably update every 4 hours.
I've been getting the same way.
And I've been doing this for 3 years now. I've been doing this for a long time. And a lot of that just goes along with my obsessive compulsive personality.
Which we spoke about, and it's because we were ADD in high school.
A lot of that is because my mind's moving a million miles an hour. But I've had a lot of goals, and I'm constantly just meeting them. And with that, when you do that, it creates this confident individual, right? It's almost like not for everybody, but I know for me, it's made me cocky in a lot of aspects.
Sure.
A lot of them good, but some of them very bad. And
But the most negative traits in you can almost become the most
Yeah,
positive,
exactly.
especially in like a corporate world, in a more
Yes. Just
uh,
depends on who's how the people you're working with are looking at it. And the big one, the
maybe.
number.
Let me tack that on there.
Okay.
Maybe in some occasions.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. But the big one that I was going to talk about, that is a goal that I made concrete, was I used to be 260 pounds. And
Burgle boy.
yeah, and since last September, I'm down to 185 now. So that's 75 pounds in less than 12 months. Now, what's big about that is like, how many people do you meet? And I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but like, how many people do you meet that set a goal and then meet it, especially a physical goal?
Or just, a goal of setting up a studio, and 6 months later,
exactly.
now we're here.
There's a lot of parallels to that
I'm
concept.
Go ahead and say 1%.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is like 99% of the people.
That's the 1% that is taking all the money, and we need to get free college, and we need to take the money from the 1%.
I see.
And we need to distribute.
All right. Okay, Bernie Sanders.
But anyway, so what you were saying is that you are the advocate. You in these work environments that you switch to me. In these work environments, you want to, if there's something that is out of place, you feel like it's on your shoulders. So you're taking on the burdens of these immoral people, and it messes with your work productivity.
Yes, used to do that. I figured out that was the wrong way to do it. Was putting it on my shoulders. Not the advocating part, but putting it on my shoulders.
Mhm.
You can't fix everything and make it be a well-oiled machine. That's the obsessive compulsive part of me, is like, my parts of my life that I want to be a well-oiled machine, I can certainly make.
Yeah.
Especially like the physical parts.
Yeah.
Like my living space.
Mm-hmm.
But people and the work environment I'm in, I cannot.
Sure.
And you have to pick and choose what things are malleable, moldable, what's clay that I can fix here. And is it appropriate for me to do that? So that's like that battle when you're young and you're thrown into this corporate environment working with people who are 40 years old.
Yeah.
And you're getting paid the same amount of money as them, and they don't like you because they know that. Is that it's like, I can't, this problem that we have, that you don't like me because I'm young, or because you think I'm cocky or too smart, or because I make the same amount of money as you, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I can't fix that. Most likely. But like, it definitely
you can't fix their perspective.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. I was going to get, yeah, absolutely. But that's something that should be fixed, and I shouldn't have to do it. You should, if you were the type of person you should be, you wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And that's a strict way of looking at it. But I just I don't want to accept, I'm not accepting of the other side.
Yeah.
Just fix it.
Yeah.
Just fix it and be accepting of it. And I don't want to debate with you about it.
Yeah. But I think that a lot of that has to do with like the amount of trust that you hold in other people.
Yeah.
Is that because if you don't trust somebody, you're more apt to be like, your perspective is wrong. Now, you trust me in my perspective to a degree.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say you trust it entirely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest that, because I'm human just like you.
Yeah.
But if I were to look at you and be like, you are doing, there's something here that I think that could be just a little bit twisted. This knob could be turned a little bit more, then that's still my perspective. So what I guess I'm saying is that I'm commanding you to consider that maybe those perspectives are not. Actually, I'm asking. I'm thinking and working it out myself too, is that those perspectives that you see, what other people think about you, should shape you a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think it shouldn't shape you entirely, but I think that it should give you some kind. But the problem is that this world is decaying faster than we know it.
That is the most. What you just said really kind of popped something in my head. When I took this personality test, maybe 4 or 5 of the questions asked about this is vague, but it's what they asked. It's a vague way of what the question said, but it is. It was like something like, do you dwell on what other people think about you? Do you dwell on your mistakes? Do you tend to think about your past mistakes? Something like that, Basically, do you dwell on what people think of you, and do you dwell on the past?
Yeah.
And it's got these bubbles, like 6 bubbles.
Sure.
Okay. One's like
Often.
very often. Yeah, one's like no, and one's like yes, and variance is in between.
Sure.
I found myself for those like 3 to 5 questions putting definitely.
Yeah.
Because this goes along with what you said, because you said you should let what other people think of you shape you. I think I do that a lot
to a degree.
Yeah, but I think I do that a lot.
Yeah.
And it's almost unhealthy sometimes. And the way that I do it is I evaluate whether or not that person, like, do they really mean a lot to me?
Yeah.
And should I care what they think of me? And then if I do, it like really gets under my skin, because I'm like, because I'm thinking like, you're like crap. Like did I do something wrong, or did I say something wrong? And like, I wonder what they think of me, and like, why don't they talk to me? Or like, why is this person not emailing me back or texting me back? Like you question. Like,
well, I get to the point where I'm like, they're right.
Yeah.
Like I change it, and then like I see it.
You start extrapolating.
Yeah, and I'm like,
and then you get to an unhealthy point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what that's like.
We're getting like into the. Oh, we're getting into the. This is good, but I'm looking at the time, and it's 1:45, which means that we have like 5 minutes to wrap this up.
Okay.
And I'm kind of ticked off. We'll have to do it again, but
it's okay.
Now I know that definitely a lot 3 hours to be able to have
next
these.
time.
Yeah,
for sure.
This is it's always gonna be to be continued, I think. But
yeah.
I don't mean to cut you. So where we cut where I cut you off was just that
you should let what other people think of you shape you.
Well, there's a lot of those like motifs throughout this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
But oh geez, this is episode 8. But anyway, if you're gonna have all of this time, and you have this time, right? How often are you at school? Are your Sundays free?
Yeah. So now I just finished an 8-week course. So now I only have class 2 days a week from 8 to 9:15 in the morning.
Okay. So you could potentially be Jamie 2.0.
I could, yeah.
Potentially.
As soon as you sell that MacBook, a piece of trash.
I am going to. I know. I've really like. I kind of intend on doing that.
Yeah.
But
I hate that thing.
What?
That MacBook. I hate it.
I thought you were talking about the boom arm. I was like,
nah. I just bought these boom arms.
Yeah, I just put a lot of effort into this. First, he tells me that I need to warm up my lights. I need new boom arms. But
no, I could be back. We could do this again next week.
Well, so next week, I think I'm having. He's a musician. I've never met the kid in my life. I just saw this video of him playing like in Utah with. It's him and his girlfriend, I think, or wife. I'm not sure, in a band. And I saw him on Facebook, and I was like, this was like a year and a half ago. And I messaged him, like, how about an interview? Now I'm doing less interviews, and I'm doing these podcasts. And so I messaged him, sent him an email, and I was like, hey, this is the new style. Would you be down for this? So I think he's going to be coming by next Sunday.
From Utah?
No. He moved to Kansas City. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
Well, I'll be back. We'll do it again. We keep in touch. We can do this again.
Okay.
We have a lot more ground to cover.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Most definitely. All right. That's that.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
And we're out. And this now is sponsored from our ad Panasonic. Find yourself a Panasonic because they're great cameras.
Find yourself the DWX252 lens at interactive.me/Panasonic. Use offer code SAM.